people in either government or private sector, wherever it is, whether it's for collaboration or for money or for anything else. Credibility is a problem for even good NGOs, because at the outset somebody has spoiled the name. That's one major challenge that we need to overcome, enhancing the value of the sector as those who really deliver to the sector. That's one challenge that I see. The second challenge that I can think about and I can articulate is that much as we try, much as we have tried, much as the change of government talked about it, I haven't seen too many changes, far-reaching changes in the education sector. It continues to be plagued with all the problems that it had, and if anything, it gets deeper and deeper as we speak. Year after year, you would think that things will improve, but somewhere it goes back. So major transformative changes like the GST in the overall economic sector I have not seen that happening, whether it's higher education or primary education or anywhere else. That's a huge challenge that we still have to overcome in this country, and that's the founding block for the country. The third challenge is a inner challenge, which is a challenge for everybody. People, availability, motivation, all of that in people continues to be a problem, attrition, all of those. But this is at an operating level rather than a really macro stuff. But I think it's an overall issue that we're talking about. On the one hand, you'll have this huge contrarian stuff, that low employment and all of that. On the other hand, you can't get people who can do it. That issue continues to bedevil us all the time. And but I think the silver lining is that I think even youngsters are coming to social sector, which is a great thing to happen, because some of us are well over the hill, as we were talking just in the lobby when we were coming up here, and the new hands have to take over, and fortunately some of them are stepping in, and so there is an opportunity there as well. All right, I'll stop here and maybe later on. Okay, that's fine. I thought I have to go back.
Make a note of it, I'll come back to you and bring them back. Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My journey into the emergency services started somewhat accidentally, actually with an accident. A friend of mine, and he was traveling in some place, and she died in a road accident outside Bangalore, and I was not in the country at that time when it happened, but when I came to know about it, I was very distraught, very upset, like any one of us would be if somebody we like has died in a road accident. I was old enough to understand the accidents happen, deaths do happen, but I didn't understand why nobody helped them. Barbara is a good friend, her daughter was traveling with her. Mother died slowly, she bled to death, and daughter was watching all this, and she told me this story. Then my question was, why didn't you ask for help? And she said, I asked, and they kept saying, police, police. They called the police. And the police took their own time to come. Somebody came by in a motorcycle, saw the thing and went back, and 45 minutes later, a jeep came to take the person who died in the road accident. So this was the scenario. And so we come across, I thought, as very insensitive people. Then I realized we are not that insensitive as people, but the systems are such that, medico-legal systems are such that if we help somebody dying in a road accident, we may be implicated, or we may, at least in the worst, at least minimally, we have to go to the court and give the report. And even if we take somebody to the hospital, they may not admit the person if the police case is not registered, because medico-legal cases and all that. So I said, okay, let me use this energy of frustration into doing something very positive, to build something, a systems approach to the whole thing. That's how I took a week's time to figure out. Every time the negative thought came, oh, this government, this society, this system, the hospitals, etc., that thoughts came, I said, set aside, let's see what we can do. So with that disciplined approach, after a few days, then I realized it's too big a thing for an individual to take on. So we got my chairman of the organization was willing to listen to that and take it forward in a big way. So I got some initial amount of money to start with as a pilot project. But getting the government on board was the most difficult thing, but that too happened. Then getting the bureaucrats on board, that too happened in a nice way. But there were creative interventions that were required at each stage, and each is a story by itself, and I can take a long time. But I wanted you to know that at each stage, we had, because it has never been done before, there was tremendous cynicism that it can be done at all. So a lot of communication techniques to convince people that cynicism is not the right way to go about building a transformation. But if you tell this to people in the government sector or in the private sector, till cows come home, it won't make any difference. You got to do very powerful communication. One small example I give you, just to get your interest. When the chief minister said, okay, if you're putting your own money, that's okay, you can do this service, you can do this. I said, no, we need the police department to support. He said, okay, and he agreed in principle. Then there was a meeting, a senior police official, in fact, one of the senior most police officials in Andhra Pradesh, he called me for a meeting when there were already a lot of people. I got a call from his secretary and I rushed there. And he said, what is this? You're telling the chief minister that you can get an ambulance anywhere in Hyderabad in 10 minutes time? Are you out of your mind? I said, sir, what's the problem? He said, the problem, I'll tell you what it is. I stay at some place and down south of Hyderabad, and I take 40 minutes to come to my office every day, and I have a red light going, and no policeman would stop me on the way. How can you get, if I take 40 minutes as the chief of police here, you are telling me that you can get an ambulance in 10 minutes? Are you out of your mind? Again, he said that. I knew what his problem was, but I wanted to tackle it intelligently. So I said, sir, because you have to call them sir, sir, if a pizza can be delivered in 20 minutes, why not an ambulance in 10 minutes? There was a stunned silence. Then I explained, pizza is served locally, ambulance is also served locally. Ambulance is there in the neighborhood. A pizza joint in south of Hyderabad doesn't give a supply a pizza to the north of Hyderabad in 20 minutes. And if they agree to supply it and if they don't, they'll actually give it to you free. So people knew about that. So if instead of saying, I mean, the whole thing went into all kinds of things, and suddenly there was silence and they agreed that it can be done. It led to a lot of other consequences. I'll tell you the story later. But the important thing was, if I said that, instead of saying this simple thing, if I said anything like a statistical distribution of all the traffic junctions in Hyderabad and drew inference models from there and tried to prove them that it can be done in 10 minutes, it wouldn't have worked. Pizza, people knew. Ambulance, pizza 20 minutes, ambulance 10 minutes, they understood. You got to learn to communicate in very effective, simple methods to get over the obstacles that exist in the minds of people. The cynicism is a big thing in this country. So this is just one example. Then we had also all kinds of things. I have 2 more minutes. Shall I get on to this? Okay. The 3 obstacles that I see for any of you who want to take on social problems is, you got to, if you're thinking scale, and you need to think scale, because why do you need to think scale? India is a big country. The problems are big. So the solutions also have to be big. You can't have big problems and small solutions. If you take care of your maidservant son's education, and that's just less than a drop in the ocean. Well, that's a good thing by itself. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. But if we are capable of larger scale solutions to the large scale problems that we have, we need to think scale. And one of the things you need to think scale, one of the ways of making sure that you have good scale is learning to work with the government. I overcame this cynicism that I had about the government. All of us love to hate the government, most democratic countries or even other countries. Most citizens do that. But there's a place and time for government's participation. Sometimes governments do not know. If I took the attitude the government is to blame because emergency services have to be blamed, have to be provided by them, and they are not providing it, it's us versus them. And I said, this is not going to work. This is us along with them, can we do something? Because this is not a service that I can do without the government, because police are involved. If an accident happens, police have to support it. If I take care of the accidental victim, and the police don't, they come after me, I'm not going to be able to do the service. I needed to do that. So the three big challenges that I find for all of you to look at, if you are thinking of scale, is first is learning to work with the government in whatever capacity. And governments are changing, mind you. I just 3 days ago, I was in Haryana. They actually were very serious about many input from NGOs and other experts in 3 or 4 major areas. And I was actually totally impressed with the kind of support they're giving to make this happen in Haryana. And it's happening in Himachal Pradesh too, because I visited both of them. So learn to work with the government is the first. Second, learn to get over the cynicism of people by smart communication. Third is, I believe the quality of the service that you provide eventually determines how good you are, how acceptable it will be. 108, when we conceived it, and I hope it still works that way, I have not been associated for many years now. When you ring, when you call, somebody calls 108, we want it to be picked up in the first half second, first half ring. That is, if you had, let's say, going in a motorcycle somewhere and had a road accident, and by the time you pick up your mobile and call 108, and if you don't ring in 4 or 5 rings, you're going to call your friend or whoever is on top of your radar at that point of time. So we wanted to make sure that it's picked up very fast, and they get to the essential questions of where